This episode on we're no longer talking about books and now we're just bashing Great Britain. Hey, thanks for joining the Escape With Me book club. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We're going to be covering it from beginning to end, cover to cover, so remember, there will be spoilers.
Today we're going to the United Kingdom circa the early 19th century. Originally published in 2006, this alternative history looks at adding another dimension to the British taking on France in the Napoleonic Wars, Air Corps. Instead of providing flying machines, though, the Air Corps must fly dragons into battle. When Captain Laurence takes a dragon egg from a small French ship, he had no way of knowing how radically his life was about to change. As the dragon takes a liking to him, he must switch his entire career from Navy to Air Corps, saying goodbye to his friends and societal norms altogether. But who is this dragon with such hidden abilities, and why did the French have hold of him? Even as far as the dragons go, Temeraire is a wonder for all to see.
We'll call him Timmy, just to make it easy on you.
Timmy! I just think it's silly because he's like, I named you after a ship.
He did.
We named our ship a French name. We are fighting the French.
I mean, it probably was taken from the French originally, or it was named a French name before the war started.
I mean, I'm thinking it's the latter, but I just thought that was funny.
I mean, it's a famous ship. He's a sailor. It is what it is. He was very on the spot. It was this name.
That works. There we go.
And the dragon was like, yeah, okay.
I mean, that was fancier than I would have come up with.
Hey, considering that people in the Air Corps actually just pick Roman names.
Oh my gosh. I'm so mad about that. Oh my gosh. I don't hate it, but I kind of hate it. There's so many us's.
Yeah.
There are like 3 endings in Latin, and there's so many dragons.
Yes.
As someone who took Latin in high school, as soon as they were like, oh, all the dragon people named Latin names, I was like, this is gonna suck anyway.
I think they're pretty names, but it's read to me, and I don't have to try to figure out how they're pronounced.
It's just remembering who's who is great.
It's much easier when it's read to you.
But anyway, this is a you pick.
It is a me pick. I've been reading these books over and over and over for years. I love these books. This is my go-to. I love these. I don't remember how I found these because I've been reading them for a long time now. All 5 books in this series.
Oh, there's more than that. There's so many books now.
I've read all of them, but I can't remember how many there are.
I could check. Let's see, because I have them all written down. There's 8.
And they're all good. I enjoy all of them. There's probably some I enjoy less than others.
I mean, it's a series, of course.
But it's been probably about a year since the last time I finished through the series.
Do you think you picked it up when it first came out? Were you one of those people waiting for all of them to come out, or?
No, I was not. I super was not. There were already, I think, 3 or 4 out when I started reading them. I think this was suggested to me by my dad, but it was so long ago, I don't remember clearly. But this seems like something that he was like, I've been reading these, you may like this. Because every now and again, he gets in moods where he'll read a bunch, and dad is a fantasy nut. So he'll either be listening to something or have something playing out loud, and I'll be like, oh, what's that? And he'll tell me, and I'll be like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, I'll try that. Minus when he went through his vampire phase, I did not read any of the books from when he went through his vampire phase. Because he hardcore went through a vampire phase right in the middle of my high school stint.
Oh yeah, that was too far. No, middle school was the vampire phase.
Yeah, middle school was the vampire phase.
Too far.
Dad hit his middle school vampire phase when I was going to high school.
The shock of the fact that I was your dad instead of your mom caused me to choke on water, I guess.
Dad reads as much as my mom.
So this is an adult book for sure. There's violence and blood.
Lots of blood.
A lot of violence and blood. Animal cruelty, death, human death, dragon death, animal death.
Implied romantic relations. None of the nitty gritty, but it's implied.
It's basically a wink wink nudge nudge. If you really wanted to, you probably could pretend it didn't even happen.
Yep.
I don't know why you would want to, but if you really wanted to.
I don't know. They just had a makeout session. That's it. That's all that happened, is they just made out for an hour or 2. It gets a little less implied the further in you get. Well, it's still implied, but it's more like, and then they woke up naked in bed together, and you're like, ah, yes.
Yeah, but no, this one is complete cut to black.
Yep.
So you could pretend if you really wanted to. If that's something that bugs you, you could pretend.
Yep.
Judge a book by its cover. Well, you can't do that.
What did you think of the cover, Sam?
I thought it was cool. It had dragons. I don't know.
Which cover did you have? Because I think there's a couple.
So I have the mass-produced paperback one. So it's a red cover and then a dragon around a circular thing. And in the circular thing was a boat.
Yeah. That's a good cover. I think all of the covers are like that, but it's a different dragon on each book cover, a different thing in the middle, and each book cover is a different color. I think the next one is green.
Correct. It is. And it's a white dragon. So I put down my notes. I mean, you told me that mainly because, truth be told, you didn't want me to read it. You wanted my husband to read it for years now.
I still want your husband to read it. I think your husband would like it.
I mean, true. Absolutely. I think he would like it. Now that I've read it, I also think he would like it.
See?
But I do think it's funny because you were like, okay, you have to read this because he has to read this.
Okay, no, I wanted it on the podcast because it's a good book. I didn't know if you were going to like it or not.
But you kept telling, okay, not me, him, because I was in the room, but you were specifically telling him. But yeah, you told him it was dragons, but Napoleonic War.
Yeah.
And so I knew that going in, which I think that's the perfect way to sum up the entire book. You don't need to know any of the plot. It's just basically that.
That is the entire, it's dragons, but Napoleonic War. I mean, you could go deeper and be like, so there's a naval captain and he ends up with a dragon and has to go into a different part of the army.
Nah, we're just getting in the weeds there. That's the weird thing. It's like the back of the book. That's too much weeds. Napoleonic War, dragons. There you go.
Napoleonic dragons.
If you like history of any sort, and if you like dragons. So I did write down for Judging Book Shy cover is, that's a cool dragon. And there's a boat. So I guess it's a dragon boat adventures.
It is a dragon boat's adventures.
It's kind of broken up in 3 parts. And so the first one is definitely dragon boat adventures.
Dragon boat adventure. The imagery of a dragon in a hammock on a boat is adorable.
Yes, that is very true.
Especially when you think about how cat-like dragons are just in general.
Honestly, it reminded me more of my Doberman.
Yeah, but you're a dog person.
I am. I don't know. Especially when he was younger.
Dragons lick themselves clean like cats.
Yeah, but so do dogs.
And they stretch like cats. And they have eyes like cats.
Okay, I will give you the eyes like cats. But there's just some things he did. I was like, that's Atlas. That is my dog right there.
You compare a lot of things to your dog. That dog specifically. I think the last 2 or 3 things I've recorded with you, you've been like, that's my dog. That's my dog in this book.
What can I say? Dobermans are popular.
I mean, you love your dog.
I do. I don't know. Atlas is a very specific type of dog. I don't know how to explain him. He has a very interesting personality.
Your particular Doberman is not like any other Doberman I have ever met.
Yes, he's very unique and I love him dearly.
So I don't know if you can say that's a Doberman to some things.
You're right.
When your Doberman is not...
It's my dog.
That's your Doberman specifically.
It's Atlas, my dog.
Your dog is a dragon.
So the back of the book, it has the newspaper people and singing their praises and stuff.
Yeah, I've never read the back of the book.
Okay, this is really, really, really petty. I didn't like it because I don't know what the person was on. Okay, let me try to find it. I want to find the exact quote.
Is it a quote from someone who's read the book?
It's from the Times.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so it's enthralling reading like Jane Austen playing Dungeons and Dragons with Aragon's Christopher Paolini. And I get the Aragon writer. I get Dungeons and Dragons. Why Jane Austen?
Because it's a period piece?
Yeah, but it's not.
It's more like if you were to take the Aragon author and be like, yo, we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, but we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, but it's magic in the Napoleonic era. And he was like, dope, but there's dragons.
Yeah, it's, I get all of that, but it was like Jane Austen threw me, and I thought there was going to be a lot more romance, or I don't know. I don't get the Jane Austen. It's really petty, but Times. What?
Yeah, I mean, Lawrence and Roland, their relationship blossoms until about book...
Oh, don't ruin it for me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't spoil. But I think that's an excellent point. The main romance of the book, it's like, oh, hey, I had this girl that I was in love with. Guess she's gonna go marry that other bro. And then...
I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to get together, and he explains that.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Okay, so there's the romance. I was like, oh, I guess that's not the... And then the main romance where he gets together with her, that wasn't romance. Where is Jane Austen in this?
Yeah, I don't know. There's not really romance in this book.
Yeah, I'm just really petty. I actually went back and I did some research because I was like, well, when is this? Because the Napoleonic Wars were forever. So I went back And I'm pretty sure, just based on the whole, the Battle of the Nile, and I was there, and he made it seem like, it was later, and then the whole British and France are fighting again. Based on all that, and the whole Austria is attacking France again. So with all that, what I am assuming is that this is after the Louisiana Purchase. Napoleon has sold off the Louisiana Purchase to fund all his war because he's had a lot of war. And we're in the third coalition. Nelson is actually a real person.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned a lot. So it says before Nelson's death fighting the Spanish Navy. So it's before that, but it is the third coalition. It's after Austria is attacking, which, by the way, I did think it was a little funny that in the book, it kind of made it sound like Austria made the decision themselves to attack France. Like the British weren't putting a ton of money to them to actually do it, but that's beside the point.
It makes sense for Lawrence to have been born in the 1770s, because I always assumed, just from the way that it's read, that Lawrence is probably in his early 40s.
I think so too.
Because anything older than that would be considered old, but he's not considered young. He's in that nice, like, mid-range.
Maybe he's in his late 30s, because he's almost to the point where he's going to marry. So maybe he's in his late 30s.
Yeah, late 30s, early 40s, somewhere in there. With how far into these books, I would say probably more early 30s, because these books go for a hot minute.
Yeah, let's say early 30s, which, by the way, for the girlfriend, that is a long time for her not to be married, because she's only 4 years younger than him.
That's why she gets hitched so quickly after everything goes down. She's like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
She also waited for him. It was a set thing. They were going to be married, but he kept going off to sea, and so she was just waiting.
But she marries Wolvie, and I hate him. Sadness.
It's like Pride and Prejudice with Elizabeth's friend Charlotte, where she marries my brain is so fried.
It's okay. I get your point. Yeah, it's just... And I felt like it kind of happened because, hey, that's a name we recognize, and we can be like, hey, that guy sucks.
He's okay.
I'm actually a little surprised Miss Montague isn't married by this point, because she seems like seeking.
Yeah, but I also think she's younger.
It could be. I was just expecting Montague and Wolvie to get together.
She was probably like, hey, me. And Wolvie was like, nah, her.
I mean, Montague was probably like, nah, I don't actually want to get married to you. I just want your attention. Which is fair, but I was expecting them to get together because I was like, I don't really like either of you. You two can get together. That's fine. But no.
Yeah.
Sigh.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. I liked Edith. Oh well.
Yeah, she's a nice, well-rounded. I mean, Wolvie comes back up later. He's okay. He kind of rounds out a bit.
That's nice. Maybe being married is good for him.
Probably. I mean, they have kids. He has to become an actual father figure, so he matures.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to, so I'm just glad he does.
No, but he does mature. It's good for him.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, because just being an heir, that's his job, is being an heir. And it's like, well...
Man, I wish my job could just to be an heir. Jeez.
Sounds so hard.
Oh
My gosh.
The hardest part would be to figure out what the hell to do with myself.
Right? I feel like that's probably his problem. He can just do whatever, and so he never has to mature anything, and then he has like a direction with kids and family and whatever. So maybe that's good for him. That can be good for people.
I mean, he works with the local militia, so
okay.
He's got that going for him.
Yeah.
He does something. And it's patriotic. So, I mean, good for you, man.
This is a little weird for me, mainly because typically when I study the Napoleonic War, I think Napoleon's pretty cool.
Napoleon is pretty cool. He's in several of the books.
So it's a little weird being on the other side and then voting for the British and being like, yeah, go British, yeah.
Hey, the historical fictions that I read, it's usually the Napoleonic Wars, and it's usually on the side of the British, so...
Napoleon's just such an interesting person to me. He started poor in this random country that France owned, and so he hated the French, and he tried to be in the army and be ambitious, but they were like, no, we want titles. Example, I think the British are still doing that. That one guy who's like, oh, he's a gentleman's son, so he has to have a dragon.
The thing on the boat where he was like, I'm a gentleman's son, so obviously I shouldn't be on a dragon.
Yeah, that, but I also meant that one guy that abuses his dragon. The only reason he's there is because his family.
Oh, yeah, Rankin. Yeah.
Yep.
I hate that guy.
So that, yeah, terrible. And then the revolution happened, and then he used that to his advantage, and then eventually he restored order. And not only was he a genius military, he was also a genius genius at economic stuff and brought a lot of cool I mean, there is some suckish stuff, like he gave a lot of freedom, but he took that from women, possibly because his wife was always cheating on him, but that's beside the point. He's just really interesting. And so I don't know. The British are so stuffy. I guess I'm just American and still bitter. I'm not going to vote for the British. What?
Next thing you know, you'll be throwing tea in the harbor. And every time someone says something like that, I think about a bunch of people getting together, getting really angry and a little bit drunk and going out to the pier and grabbing a bunch of boxes and going to throw them in the harbor, and it just kind of goes because it's just mud because the tide's out.
Well, we tried.
It's the symbolism that matters.
But yeah, I personally find the French Revolution really interesting, which extends to the Napoleonic Wars, and Napoleon's really interesting. So, and the French were awesome and helped us in our revolution, but then we were jerks and we were like, nah, France, you figure yourself out. And then that wasn't great. But yeah, so it was really weird. So like I said, it's broken into 3 parts, and then there's like ship adventures, training adventures, and then war adventures.
Yep. The next book is also 3 parts.
That's honestly a good structure. I don't mind it at all. The ship adventures are my favorite for some reason. And then maybe because it was so simple and I got to know a lot of things about dragons, which was really cool. I don't know. It was Laurence and his dragon. I really liked that. That was really cool. And probably because I'm not going to say it's a bad habit, but the author definitely has a habit of just dropping names. And every time I keep thinking it's going to be this important person and then we never see them again. But I want to write down their name because this is an 8-book series. They could pop up again.
A lot of them do. A lot of the names that are dropped do pop up again. Not very many from the boat other than Riley pop up again, but a lot of them come back up.
I just have, I have 7 pages of just names.
I think it's probably because this author, instead of being like, this random person, job title, they're like, yeah, this person that I have given a name. It's like being a dungeon master and being like, yeah, this NPC, Charles Banks. My NPC, Charles Banks. Yep, we're gonna forget about him.
And the reason I say it's not a bad habit is I think it does a really good job of humanizing them, because you do get to know their name. You're like, okay, I know this person. Then when you die, it's like, okay, that's a little sad.
Yep.
It's a little bit more sad than if it was just a job title. But at the same time, I'm like, are you kidding me? I've memorized who you were.
Oh yeah, the deaths get so much worse the further in you get, because you actually start to know the people that die and you're like, no, I knew them.
See, I would prefer that. I think I would prefer that over some of the people that died in the 3rd part, where it's like, okay, I've memorized your name, I know what you do, okay, I know a little bit about you, and then it's like, and they die, and like, all of that effort.
Okay, well, we're still the first book, we're still building, we don't really have like a set crew yet. We get more into, yeah, these are the set people that I'm working with in the next book, when we're all on a ship and we're all stuck together, and I know everybody on the ship. I mean, there's still, random NPC, but it's much more niche.
Yeah. Also, Laurence was in his element, which was kind of cool. He bugged me in the 2nd part, only because obviously it was an adjustment.
Yeah.
He wasn't used to it. But there were so many times where I'm like, Laurence, you're being so pretentious. They're so casual. Please.
No.
And he has not a personality shift, but he has growth. He gets used to them and it works out. He figures out a good rapport with his crew.
Yeah. And it gets better the more you get into it, because they just kind of accept him for the, I want to say, well-mannered instead of pretentious, because it's just military training.
Yeah.
And he fully comes to accept that they're just a mess. So
that's how they be. And that's fine.
And it works.
Yeah. And there was just so many things where it kept happening in the 2nd one. It was like, oh, that's a girl. That's a girl. Oh, that's a girl. And I'm like, Laurence.
Yeah.
We get the point. It's very shocking.
It's a big deal.
It is. But it's just like by the 3rd time, I just got so tired.
It's like, dude, yes, okay, it's a woman. Chill, please.
Because the page happened, and it's like, okay, that would be very shocking. That's the first time he's ever seen a girl. And then Lily's captain. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But by the time you got to the 3rd captain, you're like, you know what dragon that is. You know how this works. I'm so tired.
Okay, with the 3rd time, though, it was more, this is an older woman with battle scars, and she is very fierily coming towards me. Aha.
Oh my goodness.
Which, I love that scene where she's like, can I have my daughter, please?
I loved that.
If she can be spared. And he's like,
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
oh, dude, yeah, for sure. Because I thought she just wanted to go to town and my dragon's hurt and I can't leave him. Otherwise, I'd take her. But
if it was modernized, I feel like he would stumble over his words. He's very well spoken, which I like.
He is.
But I feel like that was one of those situations like, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I thought, please take her. Take her. Go.
Oh, dude, no. See, I misunderstood what was happening here. Yeah, for sure. They'll be free.
Please have your daughter. That's not what I'm sorry.
And I appreciate that she was immediately like, oh, I see what you thought. Oh, no, dude, that's okay.
It's all good. Thank you. I appreciate you looking out for my daughter. Bye.
Yeah.
I love her. She's my favorite character right now.
It's so good.
She's awesome.
Oh, yeah, she's great. She keeps popping up and she's great.
Oh, yeah. So the first one's really cool. Okay, I like Timere and the war adventures probably the most because he's grown into himself and he's really cool and he learns his special abilities. But he kind of gets a little not like other girls in the second part.
Yeah, it's that weird, awkward, quote unquote, teenage phase where he looks different and he feels judged.
He does, and then at the same time, he also feels entitled.
He's the smartest dragon there.
He is. And it's just like, they don't like me. I'm too special. I wish I could just be like other dragons. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. But yeah, I guess that's another thing. So Laurence doesn't get along with the people, and it's kind of it's mainly his fault. To be honest, it's mainly his fault.
It really is. I mean, it is and it isn't, because he was like, this person is very similar to what I'm used to, and I am in a very new place, and so I'm going to go for what's similar instead of trying to branch out and actually talk to the people I'm going to be working with, which backfires so bad.
It does. And so not only does that happen, he goes in, he's kind of pretentious. He even pisses off a couple people. And I mean, granted, he doesn't come into the situation being very humble okay, I get it. I'm an outsider. I understand. He's just like straight up like, you disrespect me. And I'm like, I get it. But
I mean, Grampy just went out of his way to be disrespectful. So in that instance,
I don't know. Their disrespectful is very different.
Yes, but at the same time, though, if you let him get away with that, it's just gonna get worse. And that's a superior officer. You may be more lax, but you cannot.
It was just very specifically, he was like, you have said something rude to me. We must duel and go outside and maybe one of us will die because somebody needs...
Oh, we're talking about...
the very beginning.
Yeah, that's the time period, though.
It just, in that point right there, so many times when people were like, oh, when there were real men, I was like, that was the most snowflake thing I've ever heard.
That's not. No, that is the most snowflake thing.
To be like, you have said something to me in a rude tone. We must shoot at each other.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the book. But again, for me, it was still more like, how dare you disrespect my child? That's my child.
I really wanted it to be like slap across the face with a glove or something. I don't know. So I'm talking about like the very beginning. He doesn't do a great job there.
Yeah, they're trying to pass off captains. They're like, you're a naval officer. This is a large breed dragon. They're very important to the Corps. So we're going to swap you out for another captain, or at least attempt to. And the other captain essentially tells Timere that Laurence doesn't like dragons and doesn't actually want to be flying with him and just wants to go back to his ship.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Which pisses Timere off because he's like, no. He's like, no, that's my daddy.
Well, it makes him very upset. He made very sad. I think that was really dumb.
It was very dumb. That shouldn't be how you approach that. But it's his own level of pretension of being like, I can't believe a naval officer has this dragon. They suck. It should be me.
I am superior.
Yeah.
That was dumb. I didn't like that. I did not like that. There's no way that they actually like you or something like that. Like, I don't think they realized how attached he was.
No. And I mean, Timur actually has to pick him up and put him out of the paddock because he just won't leave, which is just, you have been rejected.
That was so funny. That was so funny. I loved that. He was just like, no, you've upset me.
Leave. Please leave. Get out. Leave. I pick you up and I put you out. Go away now. I don't like you. And the guy guy tried to take away his little necklace thing that Laurence got him. Dude, that's not yours. Don't touch that.
That was dumb. That was really dumb.
It's my shiny.
Yeah, he should have gotten that completely different. But then he comes back and he's upset because this is like his only chance to be a captain. And then he just says something rude to Laurence. And before Laurence figures out, he just says something rude to Laurence. And Laurence is like, we must duel. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You must answer. And everybody's like, that is not how we do in the Corps. You cannot die because your dragon will go berserk. And that is a very big lizard to go berserk.
We do not have the people to spare here, sir.
If you die, we get eaten, so you can't die.
If he battled everyone who gave him a rude tone.
I don't think it was the rude tone. I think it was the rude remark.
It was specifically his tone. He was rude.
It was a rude tone, but he very specifically insulted him and the Navy. Which it's still a stupid thing to be like, no. But it wasn't just the rude tone.
So he has this type of energy coming into it. And so that happens. And then, yeah, you're right with what's his face, the stupid guy. I don't even remember he doesn't matter. He's stupid. I hope he never comes back.
I don't think he comes back up again.
I love that Laurence was like, you know who deserves a dragon? Not that guy. My armorer deserves a dragon.
Holland. Holland deserves a dragon. Send Holland. He needs a dragon.
And then they were just like, you know what? You are correct, sir. He does.
That is my utmost favorite part of the book.
I loved that.
Is when Levitas is dying and Laurence goes into the mess hall and grabs Rankin, who's injured, and pulls him out of his chair. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And he's like, this man's dragon is dying. He's gonna go say goodbye. And they're like, oh, okay.
And then they're all like, yep.
They all sit back down.
Yep. They all sit back down. They're like, we saw nothing.
And he drags that man outside and puts him on his knees in a puddle of blood and says, you, sir, are going to tell this dragon that it did amazing and it is amazing and you did not deserve it.
Nope.
Because that man did not deserve that dragon.
It made me so upset. And a little part of me is like, okay, so what I really obviously wish would happen is he would rebel and want to get his own new trainer, but that never happened. So a little part of me is like, you put him out of his misery. Like, that's so sad.
It may have happened if he had lived, if he spent more time around Temeraire.
I don't know.
Just because Temeraire is an intelligent being and being the dragon that he is would probably be like, yo, hey, so yo, you should leave your captain. Yo, dude.
I don't know. Okay, first, he did seem a little bit more simple, but...
He is. He's a sweet jelly bean. It's that dog mentality of, this is my master and my master beats me, but this is my master and I love my master.
Yeah, and it's just such an abusive relationship, and I hate it.
It is.
And it's just animal cruelty, and I'm glad Rankin doesn't have a dragon anymore.
I will say nothing on that.
Sigh.
I love you.
I'm glad Holland gets a dragon. I'll switch to that.
Holland gets a dragon. Rankin gets what he deserves a couple books later.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Yeah, but the training adventures was a lot of maneuvers and descriptions and names.
It's boring, and you kind of understand where Temeraire is coming for him because he's like, this is really boring, and I don't want to do this anymore, and it's so boring. And you're reading it, and you're like, it is really boring.
Okay, good. I'm glad it wasn't just, I was worried. What if everyone else finds this?
Oh no, I just let it play in the background when we go through training stuff.
Okay.
There's a couple bits in the training stuff where you're like, yeah, this particular bit is interesting. And then you get back to more maneuvers and you're like, Okay,
I was so worried. Everyone else is like, oh, this is great storytelling, great world building. We really appreciate all this. And I was like, I am dying.
I mean, everything that was written in the training portion is necessary for the training portion because it is training and it's going to be boring. And I mean, he does add little bits in that make it a bit more interesting, but
it's so boring.
There's only so much you can do. It's just training.
Oh my gosh. I love Maximus and Lily and Temeraire, and then of course the captains, and I love all that and that drama, but oh my gosh, there just got to one section where she was describing the gear, and I counted how many paragraphs it was. I was like, how am I gonna get through this?
I mean, it's a good description of the gear, and it's great world building.
It is, but
it's boring, but it's great world building.
Out of the 3 sections, that is my least favorite.
I'm so sorry.
I am a little bit hoping. It's like, oh, that's setup. A lot of this book feels like setup.
It is setup. There's 8 books. This book is setup.
Yeah.
The next book has much less gear stuff. Well, until you get into like gear for storm weather on a dragon transport. But that's less gear, but it's still...
Wait, so did I just hear, oh, there's less gear stuff until there's more gear stuff?
Well, it's less more gear stuff.
It's less more.
There's more gear stuff, but it's not like 3 paragraphs of gear stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, so waterproof tarp blankets and chains to hold the dragons to the deck, but keep them warm and dry so they don't slide off and they don't shift the weight of the boat.
I think the one thing that it's kind of a disadvantage with the mass-produced is obviously it's smaller and has smaller writing. And so what could be 3 paragraphs could easily take up a page and a half, and you're just like dying.
Well, I listened to it, so I did not have this problem. I was not aware that it was 3 paragraphs.
Oh, I don't know what it actually was, but it was a page and a half.
I was not aware of how genuinely long that section was because it was read to me.
But I'm not going to actually complain about it because it was set up. That's what it felt like. It wasn't, I'm going to go on a diatribe about something super unrelated. Like the first harness that we ever had for dragons and then all of the modifications we've made. Like, it wasn't like that where you're like, why did you do this?
The weather today, and this affects dragons because...
And then list every single weather or cloud type. Oh my gosh. So it doesn't do that. And all of it feels necessary, but out of the 3, it was my least favorite.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
So we get to the war stuff, and it kind of starts in a false positive. Because, we get to Dover, and we're patrolling, and oh my goodness, we've had this great thing in the Mediterranean, which, by the way, this is actually a strategy Napoleon often used, is he would split up the army and then be like, oh, you're obviously gonna go there and do a big thing, but no, it was only a little army. The rest of the army is actually over here. And so that's something he actually did a lot. So that was kind of cool when they were like, oh crap, actually he's over here.
Yep, he pulls that again a couple of times when we get more into army stuff.
The author, let me double check, because she has actually studied the Napoleonic era.
You kind of need to write a book like this.
Does she have a PhD? That's what I need to know.
Does she have a doctorate?
Oh, she has a master's degree. She studied English literature and then got a master's degree in computer science.
Oh, that was not what I was expecting. Okay.
She wrote for games. She did a lot of writing for games. Hello, ma'am. You're very interesting. Well, it doesn't say that she has a doctorate. So she's at least academically studied the Napoleonic era. And I think that's really cool. And like you said, you can't write a book like this. The detail.
She also had to come up with essentially D&D stats for dragons and dragon armor and what positions you would have to have on a dragon like you would on a ship, topman and bellman, which bellman obviously is short for belly because they're down in the belly rigging, and the people that would track how fast you're going in. Did that click for you just now?
I didn't understand.
Does that make sense?
I didn't. I thought they had bells.
No.
I was really confused why they were called bellmen.
Bellman, belly. Yep. And the riflemen and the lieutenants and all that fun stuff. And she had to come up with all of that. No, yeah, it only clicked for me this read through as well, but I didn't think they had bells. I was confused as to why they were called bellmen.
Just in my defense, she kind of says where they are, but all of it is rapid fire. Oh, we have these people, and then we have these people, and we have these people. And so you don't really get a lot of time to sit there and be like, oh, that's what your job function is. I see a job description here.
I had time this time through because I've read these books a lot.
But yeah, that makes so much more sense. I was like, we have a signal guy.
Right.
Although, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but every time they mentioned the flags, for some reason my mind went to the misadventures of Flapjack. And I don't even know if you know what that is. That was like a blip on Cartoon Network's history. It's a comedy about sailors, and there's a flag waving episode, and
yeah, I watched Flapjack. I know Candy Wife was a metaphor for being married to the bottle.
Yes, that show was nuts. But yeah, one of the early, before it was a show, they do a lot of teasers sometimes, short little cartoons. And so one of the ones that Flapjack did was one all about learning how to wave flags. And it's ridiculous and funny. And it's only like a couple minutes long. So every time every time. I couldn't take this flag seriously. I don't know why. I feel like that was the most telling thing I've ever done about my age.
Talk about Flapjack?
Misadventures of Flapjack. And specifically knowing the teasers they did before the series started. That was a moment in time.
Flapjack is its own special little bubble. My personality was not developed enough at that point in time to appreciate Flapjack the way I appreciate Flapjack now.
I loved it.
Your personality was much different than mine.
Yes.
And still is.
But it makes me interesting.
I mean, I didn't say it, didn't it? I watched a video on TikTok today, and at the end of his video, and I had thought the joke was funny, I don't remember what it is now, but at the end of his video, he went, I think I'm funny, and my audience is myself, so
Yeah.
100% of my audience thinks this is funny.
100%. I should use that. Oh my goodness, I love that.
That is my mantra. My audience is myself. And 100% of myself loves my jokes, so...
And they love 100% of the podcast episodes.
So that's our podcast. Our audience just is us.
But I want to know so bad, and I sent this to you as soon as I read it. I want to know if Bethesda, the creators of Skyrim, read this book. Because Skyrim came out in 2011, and this book came out in 2006. And this dragon's special power is the ability to shout, and then Skyrim comes along, and then that's what they do, is they shout at you.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what the previous Elder Scrolls games have the Dragonborn do. Because I want to assume that the other Elder Scrolls games have a Dragonborn character in them, but I could be incorrect because I have not played them.
None of them have dragons, though. Not that I can remember. Maybe there's like one or two.
Okay, so I mean, it may have been something that they were like, yeah, this.
Yeah, because I've played Morrowind and Oblivion, not as extensively.
And you've played Elder Scrolls Online like no one else that I know.
Yes. So I haven't played those as extensively as Skyrim. But from what I had played, I don't remember seeing dragons. So there might be dragons, but I don't remember seeing them. I think that was a big thing about Skyrim. It was like dragons, and then that the dragons were coming back.
I want that particular phrase on a t-shirt. There might be dragons.
There might be dragons.
There might be dragons.
Who knows? We'll see.
No context. There might be dragons.
I mean, every day you leave the house, there might be dragons.
There might be dragons.
The chance of dragons is never zero.
There has never been anyone that has ever been able to prove to me that there are not dragons, so there might be dragons.
You can't prove a negative.
Same with deep sea creatures. No one can prove to me that there is not a megalodon still in the deep ocean. Okay, but anyway.
The epilogue. I actually liked how the epilogue was set up. I feel like authors in general use epilogues really well.
Oh, did you read the epilogue? The epilogue was so good. I took notes from the epilogue.
Of course, I've read everything. I take that back. I tried to read the excerpts about dragons.
I did. I read them. They were good.
Reading fake scholarly.
One of my favorite parts of the book because it talked about dragons and it talked about how the dragons looked and it talked about what the dragons could do and it talked about the breeding of dragons and it talked about where the dragons came from.
See, this is why you are going for zoology and I am not.
And my dream career is to be a cryptozoologist. So I mean, I was like, yeah, dragons.
So imagine if instead you were reading scholarly papers on the ins and outs of the economic system. That's how it felt for me. I was like, this is really cool. I'm excited. Dragons. And this is really tiring. I'm done. I looked at the pictures. The pictures were pretty.
I didn't have pictures.
I actually understood some of the description she gave a lot better with the pictures, which is nice.
Something that you might like is that it did talk about the colors of what each dragon were. I don't know how far you got into it.
Oh, I skimmed it. I skimmed the whole thing.
Oh, never mind then.
I did like that.
Okay, well, for our listeners, anyway.
For the sake of you being able to talk about it.
So, long wings, which is the kind of dragon that Lily was in the book, can only be handled, I want to assume not only, but they're more likely to take a woman as a handler.
Yeah.
But their wingspan can be up to 120 feet, which is immense. And they're shaded from blue to orange with white and black striations on the wing spines.
Oh, okay. I was sorry to say. I was like, I thought Lily had white. But yeah, okay.
I mean, she's got spots.
I will say a little bit, the names of the dragons were very British sounding names.
Yeah, they were.
It's like Longwing. You have long wings.
Yo.
That felt accurate.
And then I was going to say that Regal Coppers, which is what Maximus was, they can be up to about 50 tons, which is, again, huge, especially since I think the biggest elephant is 20 tons, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay, that helped. I think the other problem was it threw out numbers, and I was like, I have no real comparison for this.
Okay, so think of like a really big elephant, right?
Yeah, but double.
The biggest breed of elephant, which I don't know off the top of my head, it's one of the African breeds, I believe. Anyway, the biggest elephant you can think of is about 20 tons, right? Regal coppers are 50 tons, so that's more than double that.
Like 2.5.
And they are bright red and yellow. The yellow reaper, I don't think we encounter very many yellow reapers.
I think the French had them.
Yeah. No, they didn't. They had something else.
Well, it was mentioned at one point.
It was.
I don't remember. Maybe it was at the training grounds. There were a lot of things at the training grounds.
I want to say that, did you write down the name of the little dragon at the beginning that James is on?
You know I did. I have 7 pages of names. Oh, goodness. Let me put I studied Latin, so I should be able to pronounce these.
If you get it close, it'll still jog my memory.
Volatius. Oh, no, there's an L there. Dang it. Vol-a-til-us.
Volatilus.
Yes.
Yeah, Volatilus. If I remember correctly, Volatilus, I think I'm wrong. I want to say Volatilus was the Yellow Reaper, but I think that's incorrect.
No, he was white, but he had like a white belly because clouds.
Okay, then he was not a Yellow Reaper because Yellow Reapers are mottled yellow with white tiger stripes.
Yeah, no, he was a smaller gray dragon who was bred for speed.
Yeah, so he's probably related to the gray Widowmaker then, which are just small gray dragons. Of course, gray Widowmakers are actually very aggressive and are known for stealing domestic cattle and are almost extinct because people keep hunting them out because they keep stealing cattle. But they have bred dragons off of those, so he's probably related to that.
Yeah, that's not our dragon, baby. He was sweet.
But what's fun about Reapers is there's also one called a Malachite Reaper, which is more of a yellow-brown with pale green stripes instead of white.
Ooh.
And it auto-corrected green to Greek for me. Thank you.
Yes, that is exactly what I meant. Thank you, autocorrect.
Yeah, pale Greek markings. Yup.
It's like a Roman nose. It's Greek markings.
Yeah.
But yeah, the epilogue, I liked the epilogue. It felt satisfying.
Do you remember the bit where it talked about how the only reason that Longwings are in service now is because Elizabeth I
No.
put one of her handmaidens to one just to see what would happen, and it took to the handmaiden?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
That's how they found out that the Longwings would take to women, is because she was like, well, nothing else has worked, and these are poison spitters that it would be great if we could have in our lineup of dragons, so let's try this.
She would. She's pretty cool. Well, depending on who you ask. But yeah, that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Isn't that cool?
And there's so many parts where she says things and it's like, that makes sense. Napoleon is in character. Queen Elizabeth was in character. All these people, like Nelson is actually mentioned and talked about. That's pretty cool. They're actually historical people just like sprinkled in.
Yeah, we actually meet Nelson either in the next book or the following. And we meet Napoleon in the 4th book.
He's cool, dude.
He's a cool dude.
Kind of weird, but pretty cool. The only reason people think Napoleon is short is because the British went on a smear campaign being like, ha ha, you're short. He's like, I'm literally normal size. And they're like, ha ha, you're short. And forever, everyone's like, oh, you're short. Good job, British. This is why I don't vote for the British. Calling people short. I feel personally attacked by that, apparently. I am normal size.
Have you seen that Tumblr post where someone from Britain was like, why don't you spell color with a U, or a couple of the other words that we've taken U's out of, and someone from the Americas comes back and says, because we wanted to get rid of you. And I love that.
Yeah, the epilogue was satisfying. I liked it. We had all the characters doing that thing. Okay, actually, I take that back. I don't understand why it's an epilogue when we find out that Timere is a celestial. That feels like a chapter kind of thing, but general thoughts.
This is one of my favorite book series. I think it was very well put together. I think that everything in this particular book had a reason to be there and needed to be there, either for character development or world building. And then I personally don't think that there was anything that could have been taken out and have the book still work.
Yeah, and I think I've made it pretty clear. Personally, I think I really like the interpersonal stuff. I'm always for that. But I really enjoyed the battles, too. When we actually got to a battle and it wasn't just training and stuff, like that was really fun. She does a really good job of describing action, because sometimes people describe action and it can be confusing.
But it actually feels suspenseful, like you're actually in the battle.
Yeah, and you can keep up with everything and you know where everything is about. Like you can visual it in your your head really well. I think she does that really well. Yeah, you just buck it up, Buttercup. Get through part 2. That's all I can say on that. You got to get through it.
It's easier if you're doing an audiobook because you can just let it skim in the background. You don't even have to put any effort in it.
See, but that's the problem. It'll just be in the background and it'll be to like 3 chapters later and have no idea what has happened. That is the problems.
No, I mean, do other things while you're listening to it.
I know, but that's what I meant. It can't. I have to read it or else I will not know what's happening.
Well, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to our listeners.
Well, our listeners might be the same way. Read however you like to read. One question for the author.
I want to know what animals she based the dragons off of. Also, how she came up with all of the different positions you would need to have on a dragon to have it fully function as a craft of war. Did she base it on a type of airplane? Did she base it off of a ship? Did she base it off a zeppelin? I want to know where all of the different positions came from and how she put them together and how she visualized them out. Are there like sketches of dragons that she has that she's sketched out the different harness works and how everything's put together? Can I see them? Are they cool? Of course they're cool. If they're sketches of this book, they're absolutely cool. Can I see them?
Yeah, I actually really interested in the dragon designing process.
Because I mean, based off of the epilogue with all the dragon stuff at the end, she put a lot of work into her dragon designing.
Yeah, before the first book. And I think it's really obvious that she focuses on dragons from different lore, and so then maybe that's some inspiration in there.
Oh, wait until we start getting into Chinese dragons and Russian dragons and Turkish dragons, and each different subset is different and they look different, and it's great.
It's a lot. And so it's just to be like, why creative decisions, how she got inspiration for it, because that is exhausting.
We even get into like Australian dragons and Japanese dragons and African dragons.
Like, world building is awesome and amazing, and some people have the talent and the love for it. I love doing it for D&D and stuff, but it is exhausting.
It's exhausting.
So she had to have something that was creatively refilling her creativity bucket so that she had more creativity. So I'm curious about that. What has helped her motivate her along that to design so many? Rating. Watching an egg hatch out of 10. This is our little egg. It is just hatched. We are about to begin the big adventures.
That feeling when you get to the top of very, very, very tall roller coaster.
I mean, honestly, just getting to the top of a roller coaster and looking down.
One of the tallest. And it's not like an over-the-shoulder hook. It's just a lap bar, essentially, with handholds. And then you go down.
Read it again, so you will.
Yes, I will. This is one of my comfort books. When I don't know what I want to read, this is what I read.
Maybe? I think it just depends on how the rest of the series goes for me.
The only reason I could see you reading this particular book again is if you like the rest of the series and you wanted to start the series over.
Exactly. And that's exactly kind of my thoughts, because it's nothing by itself. It's nothing groundbreaking. Oh my gosh, I need to read this again. But it's, like I said, it's a start of something. You can tell reading the book that it's the start of something. And I'm glad.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be your cup of tea or not, but I didn't think you were going to hate it.
No, I enjoyed it. There were definitely parts where I was glassy-eyed. Okay, I just got to do it. But
well, if you read it again, you'll know where to skip.
Hopefully, yeah. And I would be able to skip it, so that's potentially cool.
Yep.
It just depends on the rest of the series and where it goes.
It gets intense quickly.
Yeah, that was one thing. It didn't feel intense. And I mean, there were a lot of times where it was like, oh, this terrible thing, but the action wasn't happening where Timmery was.
I mean, when we're on the dragon transport, it's not intense, but you get more into the interpersonal workings of relationships.
Which I'm for.
And then you're in China, and China is intense because it's China.
They're going to be pissed.
And then when you get out of China, it's going from China through Africa and India to, I think they end up in Turkey.
That's kind of cool.
And they end up stuck in Turkey for a while.
Okay, I take it back. I have a second question for the author. I want to know... I mean, obviously she had to have a general idea for the series. I'm curious what her drafts of or timeline for the other books were for this book.
Oh, geez, we go all over. We end up in Japan. We end up in Russia.
Yeah, and so part of me wonders how much of it was like, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, but how much of it is she came to the book and she's like, you know what would be cool? Because you know it was a healthy bit of both. So I'm kind of curious. That would be cool to see original outlines to be like, okay, I need to keep this in mind.
It would be interesting to look at because she would have also had outlined the war itself and specific battles that she would need to plan around.
Yeah, I think that's really smart to do the third coalition, because you could potentially have books going over all the first coalition, the second coalition, but I think it was really smart to start with the third one. It's intense. It can be really cool, and you can just really dive down into it and get into nitty-gritty in the battles and stuff.
This book's really cool. You should read it. I like dragons.
So, have you read this book? What dragon would you want to work with? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you like the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more.
Thanks for exploring His Majesty's Dragon with us.
You can keep up to date with us by checking us out on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And you can help support our podcast by checking us out on Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can get access to our bonus episodes, where we look at the movie adaptations to some of your favorite books. This month, we are exploring the childhood classic that is over 100 years old, The Wizard of Oz, and looking at the movie's darker history.
Join us next time when we will be discussing the murderer of our next book, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time.